In 10 seconds.
Thank you.
I'd like to convene the meeting of the City Council for March 18, 2024. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the roll.
Belzak.
Here.
Gustafson.
Here.
Kenny.
Here.
Legansky.
Here.
Shower.
Here.
Stompanato.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
7 present.
We have a quorum. That takes us to questions, comments, and announcements of a general nature. Does anyone in the audience have any comments they'd like to make that are not part of our agenda tonight? If not, we move on to approval of the minutes. I'm looking for a motion to approve the March 4th, 2024 minutes. Moved by Alderman Gustafson, second by Alderman Stompanato. Any questions or comments? If none, the roll.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Stompanato.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Legansky.
Aye.
Shower.
Abstain.
Belzak.
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 abstention.
Minutes for March 4th have been approved. Takes us to receiving of communications. Do any of the aldermen have communications they'd like to share with the council? Looks like we don't. Move on to the mayor's report. We have a presentation tonight, but before that presentation, Greg, I'm going to have our Chamber of Commerce Executive Director introduce a business so that they don't have to stay for your report. April?
Good evening. April Pavlik with Darien Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Austin Lockey and Dr. Grace Castro. They are dentists at Kingery Dental, which was formerly Goers Dental, 6700 Kingery Highway. This Thursday, we're doing a ribbon cutting ceremony there, so you're welcome to join us. Their team will be having all kinds of food, drinks, and giveaways. So they're a great group. We've worked with them in the past on some things, and let them introduce themselves.
How we doing, guys? My name is Austin Lakey. April, thank you for the introduction. It's a blessing to be here, meet all you guys up front. I grew up in the area in the western suburbs in Naperville, right around the corner. Been here for the last 15 years. I'm really excited to come back to Darien and practice. I was finishing my school up in downtown Chicago. Been practicing about 4 years here. Dr. Grace Castro's here, so finish up.
And I've been at the practice for about 14 years now with Dr. Goers. So we're excited to bring to you the same family feel with just a couple of updates, nice technology and everything, but still same family feel, able to spend time with each of our patients.
And we look forward to seeing you guys. And like Darien, it's a nice place to live.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, and best wishes to you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
See you Thursday.
All right, with us tonight, and Greg, I want to make sure I say it correctly. Bedalove. Greg Bedalove, who's the president of Choose DuPage. Greg and I have run into each other several times over the last month or so, once over at Argonne, where we learned about the economic impact of Argonne on DuPage County, the state, and the United States government, the United States economy. Greg and I saw each other last week. We were over at the Inland building, and he made a presentation to us, which I was extremely impressed with, and this has to do with the idea of using analytics to enhance our economic development program. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Greg. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor and members of council. Good to see some familiar faces, and always good to see new faces to talk about Choose DuPage and economic development opportunities in DuPage County and Darien, Illinois. As the mayor mentioned, my name is Greg Bedlove. I'm honored to serve as the president and CEO of Choose DuPage. And thank you for taking some time this evening to learn a little bit more about our municipal analytics program, or what we've affectionately dubbed, because every good program needs a good acronym, our MAP program. So a little bit about Choose DuPage for those of you who may not be as familiar with us as the mayor is. We are the collective voice of business in DuPage County from a economic development perspective. We're a public-private partnership. So I work for a board of directors. I don't work for DuPage County, but rather a 501c6 not-for-profit. And our job is to promote the DuPage difference. And that goes to all of the great quality of life attributes and everything else that DuPage County has going for it to continue to position itself as a premier global business location. Our goals are basically three and very straightforward. Grow and retain business in DuPage County across all of the municipalities within DuPage County, support any countywide economic development initiatives that the DuPage County Board may choose to implement, and make the businesses aware of any public policy issues that may impact our regional economy. Recently, Choose DuPage partnered with the City of Chicago and 7 collar counties in northeastern Illinois. And I won't read this slide to you, but rather I'll focus on the fact that DuPage County, I'll say it again, partnered with the City of Chicago. Our board feels that the single most important ingredient for a strong DuPage County and a strong economy in DuPage County is a strong City of Chicago. And historically, economic development in DuPage County, northeastern Illinois, and the City of Chicago has always been very siloed. The city would try to poach businesses from the suburbs would try to poach businesses from the city, a suburb would try to poach a business from another suburb. After about 10 years of wrangling with key officials across all of the jurisdictions involved in GSEP, the Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership, in January of 2023, we all agreed that we need a regional brand, we need a regional identity, we need to start rowing in the same direction, we need to start looking at things like real foreign direct investment. With all due respect to Darien or Naperville or Addison or Elmhurst, when businesses in Berlin or Beijing or Mexico City or Toronto are thinking about expansion from a foreign direct investment perspective, they're not as familiar with Darien as they are with the City of Chicago. So we partner now with the City of Chicago and with the counties listed there to promote economic development throughout northeastern Illinois. And it's led to really successful wins in 2023 and a really successful future. And it's led to more resources available for Choose DuPage and the communities that we serve. I'll stop here to let you know that we've always worked with Darien, whether it's Dan or his predecessor or anybody in your community development department, on most requests that Darien brings forward. We are the repository, if you will. We're the intake point for regional economic development opportunities. When a site selector or a consultant or a business analyst is considering DuPage, we're typically the first spot. We then work with local economic development directors to find available properties, to find zoning and codes that work for that particular business, and then we do the handoff. We also currently serve as what I call the back room for most municipalities throughout DuPage County who don't have a dedicated economic development staff that has the breadth and scope of Choose DuPage. So we have always tried to provide any support that we can to Darien and every other community with the resources that we currently enjoy at Choose DuPage. But as part of GSEP, more collaboration means that we have more data than we've ever had before, primarily through our friends at World Business Chicago, which is the City of Chicago's version of Choose DuPage. And it's through this data and the analytics associated with this data that we've been able to gather better insights into buying habits and into data-driven solutions and strategies that we think can help communities maximize their economic development efforts. So what do we do for Darien currently? Kind of from a day in, day out basis, or most municipalities? We give you an economic overview report of how things go. Dan is a regular attender. We host what we call quarterly communities meetings, where we invite the mayors and the economic development folks and village managers together on a quarterly basis to talk about incentives that the state is offering, because every year there's new stuff coming out of Springfield. Stuff that the county is doing. DuPage County recently eliminated transportation impact fees across the county, which help spur economic development. We have some limited industry reports that we've provided for you all in the past. We subscribe to a service called CoStar, which provides a listing of available commercial and industrial properties in Darien and throughout DuPage County. And as again, I mentioned RFI assistance, requests for information. So that's kind of what we do day in, day out now, mostly on an as-needed basis. But now that we're part of GSEP, the Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership, we have access to all of the software programs that you see listed in front of you. From Moody Analytics, which will tell you what the employment in Darien is, what the GDP is, and you can compare it to surrounding communities, or you can compare it to previous year's data. Lightcast talks about your employment, your workforce. You know, I know that as elected officials, you have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in terms of the business community here, but you might be surprised to learn more information about where your workforce comes from or where your citizens go when they go to work. We have PitchBook, which is venture capital. This one is just fascinating. DuPage County is second in the state of Illinois in terms of venture capital dollars and startup ecosystem businesses throughout the 100 plus counties in Illinois. We now know who those people are, where they're investing their money, what types of businesses they're investing in, and working with our partners at Innovation DuPage, which is an innovation center, tech hub, startup in DuPage County, in Glen Ellen more specifically. We're able to leverage those startup businesses with existing businesses. ESRI is a great tool. It can do customized reports that can show all types of information on populations, demographic, employment by sector. How many people in Darien are employed in the industrial sector today versus 10 years ago? That's a piece of information that you can use, or your plan commission can use, and your planners can use to help kind of do your comprehensive master planning, which I know is something that most municipalities do on a regular basis. Census data, C2ER talks about cost of living, what the cost of living has been and where the cost of living is going. Again, CoStar, I talked about CoStar briefly. But more importantly than this information is kind of what you can do with this data. So here's just some examples. I was personally involved. We were involved in a deal last year up in Itasca for a company called Cybridge Technologies. They approached the village of Itasca for an economic development incentive. And the first thing Itasca wanted to know, naturally, is what's in it for Itasca. If they're going to give a tax rebate or they're going to give some type of incentive on fees, what's the upside for Itasca? We did not have the ability to do that for them. They would have had to hire a consultant to do it. We now have the ability to do it. We did it for Itasca. This is just the cover sheet. The report itself is about 90 pages long. It goes into the types of jobs, the multipliers, the jobs that the jobs create, the jobs that the jobs help support. And this one deal supports 301 indirect jobs through the 150 jobs. This came from Michigan, by the way, so it was a great win for the area. These people are going to buy homes in DuPage County. They're going to buy cars in DuPage County, and on and on. And about a $46 million win in earnings for the workers. So it helped provide an informed decision to the elected officials in Itasca about what it means when a company that most people never even heard of brings 150 jobs into the region. Can also better help us understand the trade area. So I know that as you guys look at various corners and whatnot from an economic development point of view, here in Darien, what's the population within, what are the total businesses? Let's start with businesses. Pick your point. For this example, we use the county government center on County Farm Road out in Wheaton. How many businesses are located within 1 mile, 3 miles, and 15 miles? How many employees? How many of those are in the retail trade? How many are manufacturing? And then we can drill down from there and get more information on that to talk about consumer insights. So demographics that include household and family characteristics, employment, education levels, product preferences. So you can look at Darien and say, what is the median age? What's the household income? What's the spending demographic? What's the market that makes the most sense for us to go after at trade shows or partner with Choose DuPage in an effort to attract to Darien. Can also identify market potential. We actually just did this, kind of helped out Dan with a project like this year at 75th and Lamont Road, when you all wanted to kind of do a retail gap analysis for that shopping center and what's there now and what could be there and what's already in the market. Because as we all know, the consumer doesn't know when they cross the border from Downers Grove to Darien or Woodridge to Darien or Darien to Lamont. So the one joke the pun or whatever that I always like to tell people is, I know everybody wants a Trader Joe's. I know everybody wants one in their defined downtown. But Trader Joe's looks at trade areas, not Darien versus Westmont versus Downers Grove.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so let Dan off the hook if he hasn't achieved. Don't you have a Trader Joe's in Darien?
No.
Sorry. Well, we'll work on it, Dan. Or if the data says it's an opportunity, then we'd focus on that versus something else. This also shows, and this is a delicate topic for me in front of elected officials, it shows the shift in the economy in DuPage County in general, quite frankly, away from brick and mortar retail to e-commerce, to transportation, distribution, logistics, and warehousing. And it helps you all, when you're in front of your constituents, talking about a distribution facility. And why you're looking at a distribution facility? Well, because the market has identified the distribution facility as a potential win for the region. Ultimately, it's all up to you, of course, but at least now you have more data. Can also reach prospective businesses. We now have a database with over 100 million companies and their employees. So access to businesses, and Choose DuPage uses this business. We have two initiatives going on right now. Connect DuPage and Sustainable DuPage. The mayor heard about those at our board meeting as well. Connect DuPage endeavors to serve women-owned and small women and minority-owned businesses, learn how to do business with the government and other governmental type agencies, as well as big businesses, larger businesses, many of whom have a DEI initiative or an ESG initiative that guides with whom they do business with. We can gain workforce insight. This slide's a little hard to follow, but this is kind of where the employees are in DuPage County now, where the jobs are in DuPage County now, and where the data indicates the jobs are going. So as you all make decisions in terms of zoning and deals that you're trying to go after, if the workforce isn't there, does it make sense to go after that deal if you can't find the employees to fill those jobs? This is a huge one for DuPage County right now. Workforce is probably our biggest, interest rates and workforce are our biggest challenge for economic growth in DuPage. I talked about the VC and the PE funding, private equity funding and venture capital funding. Find out where those deals are going. Get connected with those venture capital companies and those private equity companies and showcase your available properties to these folks. They have money to invest and they want to invest it. Traffic patterns. I put this one up there because it's part of the software that we now have access to. I'm not a traffic engineer. So the traffic studies that we would provide, should you need a traffic study for development, we would always encourage you to use a professional engineering firm for that, but at least it can give you maybe a starting point before you get to that point, and a whole lot more. Because a lot of these reports are customizable, and a lot of these reports are moldable, for lack of a better term. So how do you gain access to this data? Well, we're asking all of the municipalities, and you guys are the first. This is the first council that I've appeared in front of. As Mayor Marchese said, we invited all the DuPage County mayors and managers to our most recent board meeting. A handful showed up. Thank you, Mayor, for being there. And as I mentioned, a bunch of other mayors showed up. But we are happy to go in front of all the village councils and all the city councils throughout DuPage County and kind of take it as a one-off. I can promise you this, if you bought one piece of the software that we have access to as part of GSEP, it'd be a $20,000 hit to your village budget. And we're asking each municipality, we pay, I mentioned this at our meeting, DuPage County / Choose DuPage pays to be part of GSEP. There's an annual fee associated with it. We believe that it's going gangbusters. I brought a hard copy of the GSEP annual report from last year. I'll leave it with, I guess, the police chief, and he can make copies for you all. We're winning. We're getting deals. This is the point in my presentation where I like to always remind people that when the Chicago Bulls won 3 championships in a row, it was a dynasty. When they won 6 in a row, it was unheard of. Next week, there's going to be an announcement by Site Selection Magazine, which is my industry's magazine for economic development, that the Chicagoland area, and Chicago includes Chicago, the actual MSA is Chicago, Naperville, Elgin, so it's Chicago in the suburbs, is the number one region in the United States of America for the 11th consecutive year for corporate relocations and business growth, as measured by meeting one of the following 4 criteria: $1 million private sector investment, 25 new jobs, 25,000 square feet of non-retail space development, and the 4th is slipping my mind right now, non-retail. So if it meets one of those 4 criteria, and for the 11th year in a row, the Chicagoland market was number 1. We want to be part of that. We want to be with Chicago. We want to be with our friends in Kane and Kendall and Will, and we all now have access to this information. So we're all going door to door, so to speak, asking municipalities to pay a modest fee of $5,000, try it out for a year. I've known Joe for years. I've known Dan for years. It's going to work. But if it doesn't work, we're done, Greg. We didn't get the value out of it. So we wanted to put this out in front of you all to, quite frankly, ask for your commitment to this program and see if there's more we can provide you than we already do. So what will you get as just kind of a push a button? Because software, right, is just, it's data. So you set up the macros, you push the button, the information gets sent out. This is just a list of some of the things, the economic overviews, the industry reports, the demographic reports, the additional analytics. That'll be in Dan's inbox. We haven't picked the date yet, but that'll be in his inbox on a monthly basis. But then if there's additional information, custom reports will be on an individual request. And this is where we ask you, we got 39 municipalities, we want to work with you. We would hope that you would be respectful and not kind of flood us with 150 requests in year 1 from Darien, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out because I'm so excited about this program and I'm so excited about the opportunity that it provides to all of us to help address the economic development future that's in front of us. I think it's a bright one. A quote I like to say is generally attributed to Mark Twain. Reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. Reports of the death of the business community in Illinois have been even more greatly exaggerated. We're still a low-cost provider in terms of square footage per office space per square foot. We still have unbelievable resources with water. We still have the most reliable, lowest cost energy provider this side of the Mississippi in ComEd. So we think we're well positioned. We want to use this information to grow the pie even more. And with that, I thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I'd like to add something. Like I said, I've run into Greg several times recently, and after I walked out of there last week, I talked to Lisa Maselli, who works with Greg, and she's probably spent about an hour with me and Mayor Veenstra from Addison. And I told Lisa, I said, I want this program in Darien. I want to be part of this. And I called her up. I talked to Brian, and I said, Brian, do we have $5,000? Well, in effect, we have $15,000.
In community development.
Price just went up.
No, we're the first that should go down.
But it made sense to Brian. I called Lisa and I said, I'd like you to come to our city council meeting. Our budget's being approved April 1st, and I'd like to make sure this item's in our budget. It's $5,000. Like you said, the programs are all much more money than that. And I think the services that it can offer complement what we do already. If anything, they add to what we can do greatly. They add greatly. So that's my take on it. Brian.
Just a question for Greg. Everything was very interesting and very nice presentation. A lot of it seems to, focus on larger corporations, bigger things, and Darien's a lot of small business as well as, the Chicago area. How would this help maybe attract small business as well as bigger corporations?
So economic development multipliers. Obviously, some smaller businesses support bigger businesses. We're working on a deal right now at Choose DuPage that'll be thousands of jobs for the Chicagoland area, and all they want to know about is the feeder businesses, whether it's legal, professional services, accounting, service, food and beverage, that will help support their business. So I don't like to use the trickle-down economic model, but in that case, there is an opportunity for trickle-down. With respect, more direct response to your question, this data includes retail. We never had access to retail data before. So smaller businesses in a town like Darien, I raised my family in Downers Grove, so I'm very familiar with Darien. And I know that retail is an important part of what all communities in DuPage County do day in, day out. Some have more robust retail corridors than others. Some have retail corridors that need a little assistance. So by having access to that retail data and the database of companies, we can matchmake and we can feed those businesses cross-pollination opportunities.
Okay.
And, again, and I want to preface this by saying we're going to help. But if you have to use the colloquial term, a mom and pop business that is like the dentists who were just here, who are trying to, let's say those were new, they might want to know how many households are in the area with children, or, if they're pediatric dentists, how many children are in the area of Darien, and what's the household income, the median household income, because that might help make them make a decision in terms of where they're going to locate. So it could provide all that information as well.
I think a local example is what you're talking about is Argonne and the Reserve Military Base. We do see, those are our larger places. We do see a lot of members of both of those facilities, at the restaurants and shopping and different places. So what you're saying makes sense.
And I know that as you all evaluate, let's be honest, the challenges associated with brick and mortar retail right now, you have to look at things like multifamily residential. You have to look at things like mixed use. You have to look at things, I was just chatting with one of the other gentlemen here. Anybody wants a warehouse or a distribution facility in your town, just let me know, because I got people lined up at my door ready to open them. And I know that for some towns, distribution facilities and warehousing is not part of what they're looking for. So we can help you with the connections to the people that might fill your vacant spaces.
Greg, when I first got on the council, and I didn't know much, not that things have changed much, but one of the things that I always kept talking to Dan about is I know this guy in my Rotary Club named Greg Bedela. Do you ever use Choose DuPage? And we've had these conversations before, and man, I smiled like a cat who ate the canary when I saw your name on that, when I saw Choose DuPage on the list today. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, and for the record, Dan he attends all our quarterly community meetings, and he's always utilizing our services in an appropriate way.
So the custom report would be included in this investment if we needed a
Yes.
custom report? And what would be a typical custom type report? What would we,
Greg,
why would we need
yeah,
that?
it's a great question. Greg, we are thinking about putting in a pickleball facility in an old warehouse, and they would like us to waive the permit fees associated with it. That might actually be a conversation that Dan may have already had, because every community development director in DuPage County is dealing with pickleball facilities. And they want permit fees waived, and they want a sales tax rebate. We don't know how much, and they're telling us they're going to generate $10 million a year in taxable sales. Can you verify that for us? Can you tell us what the economic impact of this pickleball facility is going to be on Darien? Can you tell us the cannibalization factor of the pickleball facility and any other pickleball facilities we may have, so that we can go back to the developer or the owner who's asking for a total economic and development incentive of $100,000? And we can tell them yes, no, or somewhere in between.
And so the information you're able to provide us, it's not proprietary in any way, where it would be for us to use any way we saw fit, like in sending out, if a business contacts us and says, well, we're thinking about Darien, we could send them a flyer that says,
Absolutely.
this is what Darien has to offer based on your information.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, I love data, so but who would spearhead this from the city side? Is it EDC? Is it, I see Lou in the audience. We don't have a business person like we did before. So the data is great, but who's going to constantly be using it? You got, I mean,
You know, and there's a twofold to that, and you beat me to the punch here. In respect to Greg, I've worked with Greg for I don't know how many years. We've been attended back when it was at Navy Pier, the
ICSC.
Yes, thank you. So from that perspective, great working relationship. Number two is recently the whole plaza at 75th Street and Lamar Road. We did a marketing, I'll call it somewhat of a marketing analysis to find out what are we missing? Who are the demographics for that location based on the traffic? Who are the residents, children, the non-residents, from children to older people, younger people? What's the market there and what are we missing? That report, and we still have it, it's shelved right now, but that report basically said, you're missing a grocery store, not Trader Joe's, things of that nature. You're missing housing, so on and so forth. And who are the markets, different markets, apparel, textile, hardware, so on and so forth. So they're great reports, you know, on an individual basis. And the one question I have for Greg, and I think we all need this help too, is to engage with further recruitment. That always seems to be, okay, where do we find these people? Hey, Greg, you know, we got an opening over here, 3,000 square foot. Yeah, it's all on our site, but people don't know Darien. This is where we also need help, and this is where I think Choose DuPage, in my opinion, is going to become a partner to say, hey, your name is out there. You may want to contact this company. Here's a lead for you. Greg, maybe if you can comment on that.
Yeah, so well, first of all, our social media presence is growing in leaps and bounds in the site selection and commercial real estate community. But to Dan's specific question about, I have a 3,000 square foot space and I'm trying to lease it. How can I get that leased? I would probably at that point suggest to Dan, do we know what the market's calling for in that 3,000 square foot space before we try to fit a square peg in a round hole? Because that's the first thing we got to do, is if it wants to be what it can't be, then we got to start with the data from that perspective. And then we have, you stole a little bit of my thunder, Dan, but we'll probably be, I don't know if we'll be back in front of you, but we're developing landing pages on our website and our social media presence for available properties throughout DuPage County, because we have relationships with every commercial real estate broker that handles DuPage County. And getting that information in front of them quicker is one of our objectives for 2024.
okay, because I mean, like I just heard, you know, with the last place that we want to put in that little, you know, fast food place or whatever on 75th by the Jewel, you know, people are like, well, you know, we need more restaurants. You know, Darien has 0 restaurants. And, you know, we always say that, you know, so.
75th and Cass, the Jewel at 75th.
Jewel, right.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a small 1,000 square foot, you know, someone said, oh, you know, great, we need more fast food places. You know, there's no places, there's no sit-down places really in Darien. Everybody, we all say it all the time. So
So
does
that
this,
goes
how does this
to-
data help us understand where can we
That
identify?
goes to another program that Choose DuPage has always made available for Darien and everybody else. And Dan mentioned it. ICSC, the International Conference of Shopping Centers, is the retail trade show that's held annually in Las Vegas, and then they have one at Navy Pier. We have a booth at those, and the best way to find the Taco Bell that you're looking for, or most chains, and there's even some smaller, franchise establishments, is through ICSC. In terms of the mom and pop, that is just old-fashioned blocking and tackling, council member, and it's really just getting the information in front of those folks and helping them make that informed decision.
Greg, we have a 13,000 square foot empty CVS.
Yeah, read my mind.
That Gerber was going in.
I would love to have an indoor pickleball
Pickleball
court.
center?
Yeah.
Well, we
Trampoline,
have a
yeah.
million contacts in the pickleball world. Yeah, and we can absolutely.
I mean, but is that something we can do? Like if we give, somehow, Dan, we say, this is all of
Absolutely.
our square foot we have available.
We know all the square foot you have available.
Okay.
You know, here, let me pretense that a little bit. CVS is a site, correct. Can you put a pickleball in there? The answer is yes. Well, provided the ceilings will be high enough. The question now becomes, how much is that piece of property worth, and what is the owner of the pickleball willing to pay for that? Greg?
Yeah, how much per square? But like a perfect example. I mean, look, in the last month or last couple months in Brookhaven, we had 2 new upstart businesses, Harmy and Lapanza, that are gone. Great food. Harmy, maybe there was some management issues, but Lapanza was great food. I'm sad that. So I'd love to know from you folks,
Sure.
why did those 2 places fail?
Well, I don't want to.
What did we do wrong?
'Cause there's a-
Were they doomed from the beginning because the demographics said, listen, there's not enough people in this population to do it,
or
and
within a 1 mile radius to support
Exactly,
a restaurant.
right.
And we can give you that information that would say the point at Main and Main Street where you want a restaurant will likely not work because of the following factors.
But
But
in conjunction with that, excuse me, Greg,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
Lapanza is still there. They just went now to a catering
Catering.
versus, and again, they're still in business, but they didn't close their doors 100%. It was the customer, the walk-up customers, the walk-ins, that there was not enough
no, but they
traffic
weren't
there.
profitable as what it was intended to be when
Correct,
it started. So I
correct.
mean, did we have the wrong data? We didn't have data. We just said, let's,
well, a lot of times they,
profitable beans,
or a lot of times,
They were profitable.
but they
They felt they were
they can
living
make
there
more
every
money.
day and they couldn't get away from the.
Some
Okay.
family issues as far as spending quality time.
Harmy didn't fail because of lack of business. Harmy failed because she lost all her shops.
Yes.
And she couldn't get her shops.
management.
It was management / employees, so.
well, I'll give you another for instance on how this data is important. It might interest you, and we monitor office vacancy in DuPage County. And right now, the office vacancy rate, which is, the definition of that is the number of leases that are in place versus the total number of available properties. And our Class A, and DuPage County is a big Class A office marketplace. The office vacancy rate is around 20%. Now, you might say that's not bad in this market, Greg. The office occupancy rate, which is the number of people that are going into that office every day, are you ready?
Yeah.
In DuPage County, 53%. And
it's
again,
gonna grow.
I don't have I have a dog in this race, so to speak, but all I do is analyze the data. The reality is that about 9 months ago, in a post-COVID environment, around 9 months ago, that number went up to 62%. And everybody said, see, the CEOs are telling their employees to come back to work, and that's just what it's going to take. And then we're going to have our dry cleaners reopen, and the restaurants are going to be packed, and blah, blah, blah. The number's back down to 53%. So when you start looking at that data, and you ask yourself, that's lunches that people aren't having anymore, and dry cleaning and everything else. So it's a completely different environment. And all the indicators that we're seeing is that number is not going to change in the foreseeable future. And I get in a lot of hot water when I say that, because I know we all want people back in the office, and we want things to be, I wouldn't hold your breath.
No.
So that's the kind of data that we use and provide to Dan. Hey, Greg, how many people within a 5 mile radius are in an office 9 to 5 from 75th and Cass Avenue? Here's the information. And then the next restaurateur who comes along is going to have that information to help make an informed decision.
The information you gave us last week that I found interesting is the majority of DuPage County workers go out of DuPage County to go to work.
64% of all DuPage County residents leave DuPage County for their job. Yeah.
Greg,
So-
Dan brought it up briefly, but our Chestnut Court is, that will be the focus of the redevelopment here in Darien. And, it has some issues now, new owner, great to work with. What is the relationship then between you, us, and then actual owner of the shopping center? Because there's a lot of work to do.
Only
and-
where, the short answer to that is whatever you want us to be. We don't want, if you've got the relationship with the property owner and you have the comprehensive development plan in place and the owner is bringing you people that you're okay with that use, God bless, build it out. If you're not seeing what you want, then Dan would typically reach out to us and say, hey, Greg, your report showed, because we did a report for
Right.
that specific
Exactly.
corner. Your report showed a grocery store. Can you connect us with the brokers and the site selectors that are associated with the grocers, because the owner is not bringing us? But I'm sure you can appreciate, we don't want to swim in your pool unless you ask us.
Yeah, that's my
To do it.
question. You will. So you'll sit down with
Absolutely.
us and the owner at a table to talk through this with both parties.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're finding out how important, we know how important that is, but we're finding that out now because we are finding there's challenges of existing businesses and their leases that we maybe never really thought of because we're not in that world.
And the cross covenants between the leases and
Yeah.
kitty corner or caddy corner, however you say it, from that in Downers Grove, that on the the northwest corner, I mean, all you look at that, what impact does that have on what you're trying to do? And again, I was talking with the gentleman earlier about, Choose DuPage has been discussing going to municipalities and going to the county. I'm trying to be delicate here because there's planners in the room and economic development professionals. DuPage County has been overparked for the last 50 years. There's more parking spaces during the glory days. The shopping center at 75th and Lamont Road had too many parking spaces for the businesses that were there. There's a new move-afoot, pickleball, laser tag, trampoline parks, all of that kind of stuff. And you know where they want to go? They want to go in the outlots of these major developments. The challenge is there's no infrastructure in the outlots. There's no water, sewer, electric, gas. So we worked with one municipality, the deal is still TBD, about a sales tax incentive in an amount equal to the cost of bringing the utilities to the middle of the parking lot. The parking lot was never intended to generate sales tax for Darien or the municipality. So here's some found money, and the developer gets some money to bring the electric in, and everybody gets a win. We crunched those numbers. We presented them to this village in particular, and their mayor said, we're going to do this deal. So that's kind of information that we're hoping to provide.
Lou?
Not of me.
As you and I were talking earlier, about the overabundance of commercial space, office space, that's all vacant right now. What's the best way for a community like Darien to approach, especially on the office side, trying to fill up those spaces?
Yeah.
there?
So I'll talk to them if that's okay. So our recommendation and what we're seeing, again, the data, there's three types of office, Class A, Class B, and Class C. Class A is what you might see on the I-88 corridor out in Naperville through parts of Oak Brook, Downers, Lyle. Class B is the 1-2-story office buildings, and Class C is glorified warehousing. The price point on Class A in DuPage County used to be about $30 a square foot, triple net. It's down to about $20. So what we're seeing today, it's not happening as fast as we want it to happen, but my recommendation, if asked, would be if you have Class A, sit tight on it for a while because Class B is migrating into Class A. Because your business that was in the Class B and paying $20 a square foot can now get the same price point for a much nicer building with more amenities. The Class B and the Class C is where the challenge is. The Class B is now sitting vacant, and the Class C needs to be torn down. So the Class B becomes a question of, and I was just in front of another village council, a neighbor of yours, I don't mind saying, not the council, some members of the council, talking about the just absolute critical nature of being dynamic and fluid and nimble and being ready to rezone because microbreweries and pickleball facilities and laser tag facilities and experiential dining love those Class B buildings. They love buying them, repurposing them, and putting in, a microbrewery or putting in a pickleball facility. But 9 times out of 10, those buildings aren't zoned for that. And if you can get ahead of that curve, you'll be more attractive than someone who's behind that curve. Even if it's just, I hate to say this, because I know we're being recorded, even if it's just the mayor saying, I will work my tail off to get the zoning approved because it makes sense for the community. We'll go through all the right government processes, we'll do what needs to be done, but I know you have a mayor who's an advocate and a champion for business, and that's what they want to hear. And the deal just flows from there.
Mayor, when you originally approached me, we talked about this. We do have money in Dan's budget for this year. If this is something the council's interested in, we could bring it forward actually to the next council meeting, and the membership could be as soon as we cut you the check.
Listen, we're gonna. You don't get all of that stuff unless you become a member of the program.
Correct.
If for whatever reason, if municipality, I don't want to make this. I can't make this from a county perspective. I can't make this haves and have-nots. But I want people to see the value in this. We're always going to have a relationship with Dan, but that stuff, those reports that start getting generated automatically, those custom reports, that starts when you join the program.
Okay, and that's what I'm asking the council, if they're interested in joining, we could have that on the next meeting. I saw a lot of interesting faces and a lot of great questions and a lot of interest, so if it's maybe a mayor straw poll to see if we should put it on the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Tom?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Joe?
Absolutely.
Ralph?
Yes.
Ted? Okay.
Thank you.
We'll get you a check for $5,000.
I appreciate everything. Listen, it's an ecosystem. Economic development is local, county, state, even federal. And elected officials and you all play a big part in it. So thank you for all you do for DuPage County. We're just the sum of the parts, and we hope that together we're going to continue to promote DuPage, because when the Site Selection Magazine article from last year came out, somebody's heard me do this before, but there's 3,043 counties in the United States of America. And from a new project perspective, last year, DuPage County ranked number 9 out of over 3,000.
Where was Cook?
Cook was number 2.
That's
was
something
2.
a lot of people wouldn't.
Cook was 2, DuPage was 9, Kane was 14, and Will was 16. Illinois was the only state that had 4 counties in the top 20. We have to keep that momentum going. And we have to change the narrative. That's what I always try to do with these things. Let's change the narrative. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Greg, one more question. Mr. Mayor, if I may ask Greg one more question. I really have to ask you how you define economic development, because I'm still struggling with that.
How I define it?
Yes,
Like Webster's dictionary?
any way you want. It's the catch, everybody. What are you doing for economic development? The catchphrase.
I believe that economic development is using all the tools available to you to promote your defined geography as a premier global business location.
Thank you.
We have that on tape, Greg.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's Greg. Good seeing you.
Oh, I leave this with you?
Sure.
If you want to make
Here, I'll take it, Greg.
Greg, they all got a copy of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. I have one other thing. As all of you know, we've contracted with GovHR to do a strategic plan. I don't know if all of you have been contacted, but this week we are scheduling. All of us are being scheduled for 30 to 45-minute interviews. I scheduled mine today for April 1st. They actually give you some dates and they give you times, so I would get those things scheduled. What's more critical is after all the data's been collected, we have a group meeting of our elected officials and significant others, and right now we have 2 dates, June 8th or June 15th, from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30, and you were asked to come here and agree on one of those 2 dates. So can I ask what date, because we have to give GovHR that information. Is it June 8th? How many can make it June 8th?
Sorry, what are the times on that?
8:30 a.m. till 12:30 in the afternoon. Breakfast and lunch will be supplied, and it'll probably be a site away from here.
Did I hear you said are significant others?
There'll be other people besides just the elected officials.
I'm better on the 8th myself, but I don't know about the rest of the
How
council.
many for the 8th of June?
Go either way, so,
I'm open either one.
yeah, open either one.
Michael?
Be either one, I would think.
Joanne?
I don't know.
Ted?
Whatever you guys decide, I gotta get cleared off my, because I always work Saturdays, so. whatever you
Mary?
decide.
Jerry?
I'm likely out of town on the 15th, moving Henry out of college. Would you ever entertain doing it on a weeknight?
They would prefer to do it on the weekend due to the time. They don't want us working a whole day and then having to come in and spend 4 hours straight at night. So we give them a date of June 8th?
It's fine.
I can make it work, yeah, I mean, it's,
Okay.
I could probably.
Sounds like
yeah.
only Eric, you said you'll be out of town? Is
Yeah.
that what I heard?
I'll be in Canada. I can get on the phone.
Well,
Be
they,
an opportunity to Zoom?
No.
No?
oh, they,
Zoom applies to actual city council formal meetings like this, not committee-type meetings.
they would actually like all of us to be there.
I was and just talking because of Eric being out of the country. Like, would he be? Could he somehow participate electronically?
Are you
or-
bet on the 15th as well?
Yep.
Both days you're bet on, so.
I'll double check, Mary, with John Murphy, but I
Okay.
don't believe we could do that.
Okay. June 8th, 8:30 to 12:30, we'll give you the location. You should also know that we have a list right now. I added some names to it today. We have a list of about 18 people, non-elected, non-commissions, non-committee people from the Darien community who will be participating on April 16th in a 2-hour question and answers session in the training room across the parking lot. We are not part of that. This is people from the community. So far, I have commitment from about half of them. And I'm talking about Father Jeff, who's the pastor of Mount Carmel. I'm talking about Ray Jablonski, who's president of the Park District. I'm talking about Lynn Novak, was the past president of the Women's Club. We're talking about Jim Beulah, who is a resident who's sent us questions and answers. Each of the, Tammy Karam, who's the marketing director for Kingswood Academy. Beth Tischler, who is a real estate / business owner. These are a lot of really good people who have no connection to the, well, some of them sit on the Darien Action Committee, but Brian and I figured we'll send it out to about 18 to 20 of them, so we get at least 15 of them who will be there. So I just want you to know that that's going to take place on the 16th. So your interviews that take place this week and next week, that interview session, which will take place on April 16th, and then we have our data on June 8th. We'll get a lot of that data feedback on June 8th, okay?
And how are we? Are emails going out about the virtual interviews, or are they calling
Went out.
people?
They went out today.
They went out.
Yeah.
Today.
I didn't get anything.
They went over the
From
weekend.
and
Yeah,
tennis.
It came out
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it came out
Yesterday, yeah.
And tennis.
And tennis.
TENNES.
Yeah.
I'll resend it, Mayor, because I was copied on it
Yeah, I got
also.
it yesterday.
Yeah, 'cause
Say you got-
I'm being interviewed at 3 o'clock on the 26th.
Yeah. I'm being interviewed at 1:30 on the 1st, so.
2:00 on the 29th.
All right. The other thing I wanted to show you is, we talked about the postcard mailer. Our postcard mailer is going to look something like this. This is a little larger than what it's actually going to be. That's the back side of it. Jessica upstairs did a lot of work on this, and we sent it to Maura, and this will be mailed out. It's going to cost us almost $5,000 for one mailing, and we're going to try to do 4 mailings in a year. So I just wanted you to know what it looked like. Next time, we'll probably have the water tower, or we'll have the clock tower, or whatever, on it. And I wanted to share that with you today. That's my mayor's report. City clerk's report. Joanne?
One item. City of Darien offices will be closed on March 29th in observance of Good Friday.
Thank you, Joanne. City administrator's report.
No
Brian?
report, Mayor, thanks.
Department head information questions. Police department monthly report, Greg?
I have nothing prepared for that, other than if you have any questions from the report, be glad to entertain anything.
I've got a question for you. You know, we had talked previously, Greg, regarding the emergencies, to sign up for the emergency texts.
Yeah.
And I know back about a week and a half ago, there were like 526 people you indicated. And since then, I got very active, and I got stuff posted out on Facebook, various groups. I got it set up on Nextdoor. I had Dave Giuliani write up a patch article, and I contacted a lot of people because I really feel it's a great program. Do you know how many we currently now have set up?
Yeah, as of noon today, it was 964.
Wow.
Oh, great.
So we went from
Excellent. I'm pushing it big
526 to
time.
over
Yeah.
900. That's fantastic. I just really want to encourage people
Oh, big time.
to sign up for it because it's a great, great program. And I believe, Because I had some people outside of Darien want to know if they could sign up,
Yes.
because some people are close enough
It just
by.
requires a cell phone number so that they can get the text. That's it.
Anything else, sir?
No, that's it.
Greg, maybe you could just mention, again, you are keeping Twitter. for
Yeah,
some of the
Twitter is
more
still going to be
informational-
the social media, so we're going to still be using Twitter to put information out there for different events and those type of things, National Night Out, all those things. The text messaging is simply for those urgent or emergency notifications, road closures or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. I'm getting great response from people.
Mhm.
They're really, really excited about it.
Mary?
That's good.
Are you going to do a test of the system at some point, or?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Anyone else? How about for Dan? Any questions for Dan? Or any presentation, Dan?
Not this evening.
Mary?
I did talk to Dan a little bit, just as it relates to the curve correction project on North Frontage Road. They have been going like gangbusters, marking all the utilities and prepping the roadway. Is the go time to start that still basically like June 1? Are we anticipating that?
I'm waiting, supposed to be right before Memorial Day. Again, don't quote me on that. We had a pre-construction meeting, so Martam Construction is the awarded vendor. I've worked with Martam before, very good contractor. I'm waiting for him to call me directly with a schedule. Want to make sure we get our information in the over to our web services, and signage and all that is going to be something very critical. So we want to try to get it going sooner than later. And so there's some utility conflicts right now, and they have to tentatively there's utility conflicts that they believe still need resolvement. So we're just waiting for that final approach. But I'll keep everyone posted.
And once the roadway does get closed, which should be past the entrance to Our Lady of Mount Carmel, will there be an opportunity for residents to do a pass-through the Mount Carmel parking lot to access Bailey Road?
Yes, that's something else we're going to have to work out with the church to make sure they understand what's going on, because for a while there, with the grading, there's no way that traffic is going to be able to get through there. Well, and I'll find out more logistics and have the opportunity to work with Martam closely to see if there's any temporary solutions that we can come up with.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just one quick question. In my subdivision, it's already been marked now for the curbs and stuff to be repaired.
Okay.
When does that process start?
We're going to be starting 2 weeks, about 2 weeks as far as the cutting.
Okay.
The actual cutting itself, and then the pulling will be happening probably the first week of April.
Okay.
Okay. Treasurer's report, Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, I'm requesting council's approval of warrant number 232422, in the amount of $1,427,276.52 from the listed funds. Payroll for the period ended March 7th in the amount of $314,042.24, for a total to be approved of $1,741,318.76.
Motion to approve? Alderman Belzak, seconded by Alderman Legansky. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I had a couple. We didn't have time in pre-council. Dan, on the truck 109 for, maybe I'm just not understanding the description, but cab and chassis, there was like a separate invoice for that or a posting for that, and then the snowplow piece of it.
Correct.
So what actually entails the cab and chassis?
Typically, when we order a vehicle, so let's say we're buying a Freightliner, that Freightliner only comes with the cab and the actual chassis. That's it. There's no equipment on it. The second part of it is what we call the outfitting. The outfitting goes then to a proper company. In this case, it's a snowplow company. That's all they do is build snowplow equipment for these types of vehicles.
Okay. And then the streetlight Beller, 13,000. I'm sure there's been like a lot of electrical work, a line had to be done beyond just the pole.
Well, that is correct. I know there was, and I'd have to look at the actual bill itself. I don't recall every detail. But I believe there was a couple hits in there, and I think also for the corner, I'd have to take a look at it to make sure I'm speaking accurately here.
And then lastly, for Yellowstone landscape for the tree trimming.
Yes.
Has that work already been done?
Yes.
That much has been done already?
Yes.
Wow.
They completed the contract, per the contract, prior to March 1st.
So is any more going to happen, or that was all of it?
No, unless there's some type of emergencies and/or special request, either if our department can't handle it, then we'll bring Yellowstone back in.
So they literally went through the whole city and determined what area needs?
Not the whole city. Yeah, it was a quadrant. This year was a quadrant. It
Got
was
it.
all on the west, basically on the west side of town. Pending budget approval, we'll be doing 2 sections coming up in December
Got it.
/
Okay.
January.
So that's, okay, thank you, sir.
Anyone else? If no more, the roll.
Belzak.
Aye.
Legansky.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Stompanato.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Warrant's been approved.
Just
Standing committee reports.
Joe, excuse me, just one comment. You might be expecting the monthly report tonight. If you notice, it's not there. Julie had some surgery, so she just got back into the office today, so that'll be delayed until the next meeting.
Thank you, Mike. Mary?
Oh, just standing committee, I didn't know if you were moving on to standing committees.
No, standing committee.
Yes. Just the next Administrative Finance Committee is scheduled for Monday, April 1st at 6 p.m. Also, on Monday, April 1st, there will be a public hearing to approve the 2024-25 City Council budget. And just want to thank everybody for the great meetings we've had, the conversations. Thank you to Ted Schauer for taking the lead on that second meeting when I was absent.
I missed you.
I heard you did great, and out in record time too, probably faster than if I was here.
No problem.
But and everybody, once again, for all their participation. He is a scary person. Yeah, no, he's a teddy bear. And then a special shout out to the Citizen of the Year Committee on an amazing and record-setting banquet. It was a phenomenal gathering on March 8th at Alpine Banquets. Just a really great group of people that planned it to celebrate our Citizen of the Year, Val Kazich, and all the other service organization people. It was a tremendous turnout. Bonnie Casera, the chairwoman, really does an amazing job taking the lead. She's also our newest Heart of Darien Award recipient, very well deserving. And really super impressed with, that's my first time at Alpine Banquets since the new owners. I thought the food was delicious, the service was excellent, and I was so thrilled to see that the Kalachki platter still came to the table, because it would have been just really sad if it didn't. But no, I thought all the speeches, the timing of the program, you were threatened with bodily harm, Mayor Marquez, but the music, everything, really great event.
I would agree. It really was a great event. Bonnie and her committee did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
The compliments that I heard were people enjoyed 2 things. One, the brevity of the speeches, and the fact that we honored 7 people other than the Citizen of the Year. And I think that brought a lot of, we had 5 tables of women's club members. We had DYC people there. We had
Lady Mount Carmel, well represented.
Yeah, we
it was
had
great.
we had
Great
a
night.
lot of people there that normally aren't there. I think next year we're going to limit the Garden Club to just 1 honoree so that we can keep 7. Bonnie and I went over everything, and we can only fit 7 on that page. so we're going to try to keep it to 7 next year, but 7 different organizations. But I agree with Mary. We had 242 people, which is one of our largest, and people, they had to ask us to leave because there were people that were still there. So it really went well. Many thanks to Bonnie and her committee. Mary?
And then another expression of appreciation to Lily Vanna, who ran the food drive.
Right.
It was very well received and brought it over to the food pantry. Everything that was donated was extremely well used. And there was also cash donations made. by people that night and by others, and we thank everybody for that. But the Our Lady of Mount Carmel Food Pantry is very indebted to the, and then even like when I went over on Saturday morning, as I was pulling away, I saw familiar faces walking up with things that they did not bring that night because the weather wasn't great or they walked out of the house without it. So things were delivered at City Hall prior, and things continue to trickle in to the food pantry afterwards based on Lily Vanna's project.
Anything else? Tom?
Yes, the next Municipal Services Committee meeting will be a week from today, Monday, March the 25th at 6 p.m. in council chambers.
Thank you. Alderman Kenny?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening's police committee meeting was canceled due to a lack of agenda items. Our next meeting will take place on Monday, April 15th at 6 p.m. across the parking lot in the police training room.
Thank you very much. Takes us to questions and comments, agenda related. Anybody have any questions regarding our agenda? If not, we move to old business. There being none, we move to the consent agenda. There being no items, we move to new business, and we have one item under new business. Consideration of motion to approve a resolution accepting a proposal from Standard Equipment for the purchase of a new 2023 model Vector 2100i fan sewer cleaner fleet truck for hydro excavations of buffalo boxes, mainline valves, fire hydrant, and utility potholing, storm sewer basin cleaning, and storm sewer mainline jetting in an amount not to exceed $548,000. Motion to approve. Alderman Belzak, seconded by Alderman Shower. And any discussion? Mary?
Question. So I know we had this discussion before when it came up at the budget. The feeling is that it will be utilized like on an ongoing basis.
I could bring you all the guys here. I'll let them speak on that, but the answer is definitely yes. This is something that's the department has been looking for easily for 10 years. So it's a great piece of equipment, well worth it. It's really going to be an asset for the community.
If we had a situation where a neighboring community reached out to us and was in need of it, how would that work?
We're number one, they're number two, so the answer is yes. We've already tried, Willowbrook, I think is going to be the one. Excuse me, Willowbrook will probably be the only one that's really going to take us up on that. Everyone else around us, Burr Ridge is going through the same process right now. Westmont just recently purchased one last year. So it's like a standard operating tool at this point is what it's becoming.
And if Willowbrook needed to utilize it, how would that, would we be compensated for it? How would that work?
Correct. We would set up some type of rates, intergovernmental agreement of some sort for that piece of equipment, and the answer is yes. Along with that, we would not let someone else use it. It'd be our people, correct, operating it and being responsible for
Mary,
it.
I mentioned, I had a conversation with Mayor Trilla, and I mentioned this to Dan, that in a spirit of intergovernment cooperation, I'd like to see us lend it to Willowbrook without charge. Because when we need police assistance, they assist us. They don't charge us, we don't charge them. And I think their use of it would be minimal. And I think our relationship with our surrounding communities, like Dan said, most of them have it. Willowbrook is the only one who would be using it, and according to Dan, they wouldn't be using it that much at all.
No,
But wouldn't our crew be going with it, or our staff?
Yeah, absolutely.
One person, the driver/operator, they would have to provide laborers, to assist through our guidance.
But we could be potentially incurring overtime charges and.
Sure.
Again, Mary, my feeling is we enjoy a good working relationship with our neighboring communities, and I'd like to see that continue with our allowing them to utilize this without a charge. That's my feeling. If the council decides they want to establish a fee, that's up to the council, but you know, we do a lot for other communities now. We went in and we helped Bruce Lake during the tornado. We helped Woodridge during the tornado. We didn't charge those entities anything for the use of our.
Well, that was a
public
natural
works.
disaster. I mean, I just think that we don't know what the level of, I mean, we're purchasing it because we think we're going to use it all the time. So I guess, what would they do otherwise if we didn't have one? I kind of would like to know what their alternative would be. I'm all about being a good neighbor, and obviously when there's a state of emergency or there's police service needed, of course we all gather, but I don't put this in the same category as that.
Well, I'm a little disappointed to hear that, but it'll be the council's decision based on Dan's recommendation.
The cost as we've been renting it is about $15,000 a month. I don't remember how much it is on a daily or a weekly rate, but it is fairly expensive. And like you say, we have the salary costs. It's one thing if I sort of feel like Mary does. If it's an emergency, a tornado, something like that, yeah, you want to help out. But if it's just a piece of equipment, we have the wear and tear on a $500,000 piece of equipment that's going to need maintenance and depreciation and everything. It doesn't come for nothing.
Or there be any liability issues,
liability
which would concern me, or interest, or
Are there any
insurance.
private uses we could do as well, Dan?
Yes, as a matter of fact, quick example, let's say an association, Sawmill Creek more recently, they need some services for jetting. Okay, so that's a situation where we would say, okay, we'll come in there, we'll jet your sewers, we'll start a maintenance program for you, then you call us when you want. Again, that's gonna be a cost back to the HOA, you know, with a full crew, whatever the full crew is. If we find something, provide them recommendations and/or even go further to provide a excavation to fix this. Typical rates on a daily basis go anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000.
Yeah, well, we know what we were being charged, so we have some information.
Correct, yes.
I mean, we could have used it last Sunday in my ward, but they had returned the rental, so we didn't
Blame it
have
on
it
Dan, I know,
last
right?
Sunday.
I heard.
They had returned the rental already,
Oh, stop.
so we
We
didn't
did.
use it. So
Any
it
further
could
discussion?
park on my block.
Yeah,
with-
about 10 days ago, walking home from City Hall, there was the DuPage County was out there with their truck, and they were actually working on the Downers Grove side of Florence Avenue and Manning Road right there. I remember I
The
saw it.
sanitary, sure, yep.
Yeah, and they were cleaning out some of the sewers and stuff there, and I talked with the guys for quite a few minutes and stuff, and asked them how do they like the truck or not, how's it been, and they loved it. And and I asked them, well, does it help you from a safety perspective? And they said absolutely. So I got a very positive vibe from the guys that were operating it that day.
Well, I think that we've all agreed that the purchase is a real positive thing.
Now, one other thing, Dan.
Yes.
I assume that this truck is going to be kept inside the Public Works building?
That is correct. They've already, that's already been vetted, so the answer is yes.
So to fit it in, how much equipment now are we going to have to maintain outside the building?
We're hoping one, or I'll refer to it as 1.5, so a large truck and a small truck potentially. So we're gonna see what we can try to reconfigure to, the least possible amount that needs to be stored outside, but it is one for sure.
Okay.
Anything else? We have a motion and a second, and now the roll.
Belzak.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Stompanato.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Legansky.
Aye.
7 ayes.
The item has been approved. Takes us to questions, comments, and announcements of a general nature. Anyone have anything for the good of the order? If not, motion to adjourn. Alderman Shower, second by Alderman Stompanato. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.